Hello and welcome to Homesteading Around the Mission. Today we're going to be discussing the benefits of growing your own food and being prepared for the days ahead. We want to talk about why. Why is it important that we grow our own food? Why should a family spend time educating themselves, learning, practicing? The best way to garden, the best way to farm is to begin doing it, is to practice it. If you live in the city now but are trying to get out to the country, begin with a small garden on your porch in pots, whatever you can start. We used to live in a single wide trailer on the Navajo reservation, and we had just enough space in our yard to do a very tiny greenhouse, and even when we'd start our seedlings, we didn't have much space, so we would take our kitchen table, which wasn't very big, and for a couple of months we didn't eat at the kitchen table. We would just spread out all of our seedlings, and we had a little grow lamp above it, and we would eat on plates over on the couch. So we did what we could to begin there, and we've had other times where we've had larger areas to garden, but there we didn't, so we did what we were able to do. We want to encourage you, do what you're able to do now. And if you have land, now is definitely the time to start cultivating that land, gardening, preparing plots, composting, anything you can do to get ready to grow your food and to be growing your food. Why? Why is it important for God's people especially to be growing our own food? Because we know from the Word of God that there will come a time, we are told, God tells us this, that there is going to come a time where we will neither be able to buy nor sell. This is going to mean so many things. Have you ever thought, what would it mean not to be able to buy? You're not going to go to the local Walmart or the Safeway or wherever you're used to going, and you're not going to be buying food. Well, if you don't buy food, where will you get your food? I was just watching a short clip on YouTube recently from a farmer in the United States. Now, our family doesn't eat meat or dairy. However, we know many people do. And this farmer was a cattle farmer, I believe maybe in Texas. And he was saying basically that many of his, in his farming communities, were having to slaughter the cows, and that because their supply chain had stopped during the coronavirus and the COVID-19 crisis. And so we're seeing food chains all over the world are starting to shut down. Well, what happens when your normal supply chain in your local town, they can't get to you anymore? What happens when the government shuts your city down and blockades the city because we've got a virus or any other major emergency? Could be tornadoes, could be hurricanes. We have seen this for the last 10, 20 years increase more and more, which we're also told in the Bible will happen. So what are you to do when you can't get out and go to your local Walmart or your wherever it is? What are you to do? This is why it is so very important now. We are not in the worst of times yet, but it is important now to be cultivating, to be working the soil, to be seeking God's blessing and teaching you how you can best cultivate whatever land you've been given. And if you are in the cities, I would take this as a time to encourage you, get to a place out of the city where you can have more land for you and your family, that you can become sustainable when these things happen, because they're not going to stop. I have also seen in the news various things about Well, we all have, but governments are going to begin to control a lot of things. This will happen more and more as time goes on, and we need to be an independent people, able to take care of ourselves with the knowledge that God has given us and blessed us with. So we want to encourage you, wherever you're at, do what you can to garden, to farm, to begin to cultivate things that think on what would your family need to survive. What are the food items that, not that you just most like, but are nutrient dense? What kinds of things? You know, we can look back in history during various wars, especially in European countries, where they would make it through an entire war eating mostly potatoes. So think on foods that are hearty, sustainable, and grow, and how can you grow these. So these are things you want to be thinking about, and we want to take you on a small tour of our yard that we live in currently and show you some of the things that we've been working on. Just as an encouragement, we are by far not experts, but I personally really enjoy gardening. It has been just a wonderful hobby of mine, really, in the past, all the way since my college years, and I have started using that hobby because now I realize that it's very important. And so over the last 5-6 years, we've been using it more and more to grow food, and we want to encourage you that it is possible, no matter your skill level, if someone's told you have a green thumb or a brown thumb, that it's possible to start learning, and learn now, and begin gardening and cultivating and doing what you can to help your family become sustainable. God bless. We're at the bottom of our house right now, and I'm going to show you some of the plants that we have growing in our yard. We're in South America, so these are mostly tropical fruit trees because we are in a tropical climate. And we are actually in Guyana, which is pretty close to the equator. So things like papayas will grow quite well here. We have sour sap. I'll show you that in a minute. But this is our papaya tree. You can see it's got the flowers on it. And where we have flowers, we have our first good papaya down here, if you can see this. And we've got quite a few others starting to grow. This papaya tree, interesting thing to note about it, we didn't plant this tree. This tree shot out of our drain after we ate some papaya one day, and the seeds went down the drain, and this guy began to grow. And I had been reading, because tropical planting is a little new for us, so I've been reading about papayas, and they don't like to be transplanted. They don't do so well. But we did transplant one, and I'll show you right here. This was really exciting. We transplanted this one right here, and we didn't think it was going to live for the first month or two, and now it's really flourishing. Now, one of the things we had to take care of here, which is similar to plants back in the States or in the northern hemisphere, is aphids. So we had a lot of aphids at the beginning that almost killed this one, but we sprayed a solution of water and a mild dish soap on it, and it's flourishing now. A quick note on papayas: you need to have both male and female plants in order to produce the fruit. So I believe you'd have to check online, but you need to have one male per so many acres. So you want to make sure that you have both plants, and in the seed there's no way to tell. So you need to plant at least a few papayas so that you can ensure that you would have a male species. This is a bean plant, a red bean plant, and it is doing quite well down here. It's being cared for well. It's also close to our watering drain from the kitchen, and it's getting a lot of constant watering, and so it's doing very well. We're going to show you right now. This is the bean pod right here. You can see it's a vining plant. It's just going everywhere. But how you know they're ready is you can take one of the pods. Now, some of them aren't quite ready yet. I can squeeze this one in this direction, and I don't hear any cracking. It hasn't dried quite enough. But this one here, you can see, is ready, and we can open it up. Let's see if I can get it open. Right there, you can see the beans inside. What you'll do is take the beans out, and you've got nice red beans that then you can cook on the stove. This is one of our Mammy trees. Mammy trees actually get to be quite large and produce a fruit that can be pretty big. They call them Mammy apples, and they're very large. They taste like a cross between a peach and an apple, maybe. These trees have an interesting backstory. They were found on the other side of our hangar from some visiting missionaries over 2 years ago had planted them, and and they were kind of struggling because they were just planted in the sand over there. So we pulled them out because we had some large equipment coming that was likely going to squash them. So we pulled them out and we replanted them in little nursery pots and let them just grow and flourish for a time in good soil, and then we transplanted them back here in our yard. And again, we put good soil around when we dug the hole, made sure we put compost in, and we've again put the dried grass from our yard. So these guys have been doing really, really well. And here's the new growth on this one. You can see that we have the new part here, and again, as the plant gets, this part gets bigger, it will mimic the leaves, the nice green leaves of the rest of it. We've also placed around these trees in the backyard a little bit of protection. We have cutter ants here, which I believe they have in the States in certain areas, and among other things that will like to eat the trees. So we've placed some old barrels that we have, and we've cut them with a saw, placed them around the plants just to give them a little extra protection, and so far it's been working well. Now we're next to our pear tree, but this is not a pear tree as you are accustomed to if you live in the States. This is actually an avocado tree. Here locally in Guyana they do call it a pear tree, but it produces the avocado fruit. This also was planted a few years before we arrived and wasn't seeing a lot of new growth on it even in the rainy season, so we again put the compost underneath, dug around, supplemented the soil, and then we even went out in the jungle. We have here, most of the local men will go out and cut the bulletwood trees and the silver bolly, which is really hard wood. And when they do, sometimes they'll leave these shavings in piles out in the jungle. So we went and collected these, and we're using it as mulch. We did a trial with the dry grass and then the bark, and both have worked really well. They're keeping the moisture in, and again, this guy also has a lot of new growth, so we're excited about that. We're here now beside what I have been calling our nursery pots. These are 55-gallon barrels, plastic barrels, that someone had sent down here to the mission at some point, probably with goods inside, and we have cut these with a saw and made them half into pots instead and filled them with good soil. Again, this is the same compost, black soil from deeper in the jungle, and maybe a little sand mixed in just so it would have some native dirt. But inside, we've had quite a few things growing in here, but we've already dug those up and transplanted them. In our latest batch that we have growing, we have a small mango tree started right here, and here we have cashew trees, which is really exciting. The cashew trees just came from the cashew plant itself. We took the nut off with the casing, put it right in the dirt, watered it, and it came up. The mango, we planted the seed directly. When we plant avocado, we just eat an avocado, take the seed, and put it right down in the dirt. The bigger the seed, the deeper you're going to plant it. And also with the bigger seeds, it's a good idea to score the seeds. It kind of helps it to germinate. And the bigger the seed, often, the longer it takes to germinate. So that's something to keep in mind. Don't give up hope that your tree is not going to come. Just give it a little bit longer. I am next to one of our saplings. It's a soursap sapling. We wanted to show you what it looks like. This is just when it's very, very small. And this is the tip of a soursap, but I was going to show you the seed. You can see the seed right there. And from this seed, you will actually get a nice, large tree. These are, medium actually. But this is what it looks like as a sapling right here, with some good soil and straw around it. And this is what it will look like as it gets larger. And from this plant, let me show you, hold on one second, and I'll show you what the actual fruit looks like right here. Once this gets a bit larger, I don't really know how much longer it has. I'm hoping not too much longer, but these will begin to grow on it, this plant right here. And before you saw the white inside on it, that's the part that you eat. These are really, really, really healthy for you, very tasty. We've got a row of them planted here and over here, and on the Medical Mission College, which is beside us, they just cleared probably about 2 acres maybe of land, and they've planted lots and lots of these, more mature trees they started with than what we've started with. We started from seed, so we'll have quite a bit longer to go than they will, but these are wonderful trees to have too. Starting with this one, this is our mango tree. Just an interesting side note on our mango tree. It wasn't but almost, less than a month ago that we pruned this tree down to the point that it looked like a stick. There were absolutely no leaves on it whatsoever. And we took the tip of the mango tree. We'll show you right over here in another one of our boxes. Right here, we took the tip and planted it. This has no fertilizer, just not even any good dirt in here. Planted it and watered it, and we are actually growing a second mango tree from the tip of that one. We are here with one of our sorrel bushes. We have recently planted, well, let's say recently, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, we planted about a dozen of these throughout our yard. These were a fun project because we had 2 large sorrel plants that were producing, but unfortunately they got a fungus and they were starting to die. So we picked the sorrel, and if you're not familiar with sorrel, it's a really beautiful, looks like a bloom, and you pick the red blooms, it's like a fire red, and then you can boil the flour on it, which has the seeds inside. You can boil it, take the seeds out, and make a drink out of it, and it's extremely high in antioxidants, very good for you. So we planted this along with about the 12 others, and we had so many seeds that we started them in little nursery cups, and we were able to give lots out to our friends in the village as well, which has been fun to do with all the plants we've been planting. We also took, everywhere we've planted our sorrel, we've made little markers that are kind of a bright blue, so they stand out here with the greens and the whites. So again, the weed eater doesn't come by and cut any of these down until they're mature. So it's always important, if your plants are mixed in with other things, that you mark them off well, because you don't want someone coming along cutting them down. Of course, most people will be on their own home site. We might have others coming around because it's a mission site, so we're just marking it for everyone. The beauty of planting as much as we can is hopefully it will provide for one family, our family, and any families to come. So that's the goal, is making sure that we have enough to sustain ourselves, but also enough that we can share is a great goal to keep in mind when you're planting. I want to share a quote with you from a book that we have found to be a true blessing in our family. We've mentioned this in previous episodes. This book is called Country Living. If you're in the city, I would highly encourage you to get a copy of this. Oh, I think it's probably like $4, and it's not very big. It's just a compilation of various quotes, but it's very motivating for sure. If you're looking to move out in the country but you're on the fence, this would definitely help you. But on page 17 there's a quote, and I hope it's a blessing for you, because maybe you're uncertain that on your gardening skills or your farming skills, and could my family do this? I want to read this to you. It says, "If the land is cultivated, it will, with the blessing of God, supply our necessities. We are not to be discouraged about temporal things because of apparent failures." I'll stop there for a minute. You may have failures. In fact, you probably will. You'll have some crop that won't work, or maybe it wasn't the right for your zoning or your climate, but there will be many successes too, so don't stop and keep going. I'll keep reading. "Nor should we be disheartened by delay. We should work the soil cheerfully, hopefully, gratefully, believing that the earth holds in her bosom rich stores for the faithful worker to garner, stores richer than gold or silver. With proper, intelligent cultivation, the earth will yield its treasures for the benefit of man. God will spread a table for his people in the wilderness that will never cease." Isn't that an encouraging thought, an encouraging thing to dwell on, that if we do our part, God will bless our efforts? We pray this is a blessing for you and encouragement, and until next time, God bless.